This game tells the story of a college student named Minato who lives in the middle of the city away from his family. One night Minato received a call from his father informing him that his grandmother was now in critical condition, and asked him to return home immediately. Understanding the situation, Minato finally decided to return to his hometown located in Ichinose Prefecture, precisely a village within a mountain valley. But when he arrived, he found the village is very quiet. He walked every corner of the village, but occasionally there is not a single human that Minato could see in the village. Feeling the oddity about this situation, Minato then decided to go to his father's house. When he got there, he found a letter from the village mayor. It stated that a dam would be built in the village, and all existing villagers including Minato's family were required to move out of the village. In the letter, the village chief also apologized to Minato's family because they have to leave their ancestors' land and relocate their silkworm business to a new location.
After reading the letter, Minato entered the house, and found various objects that carried his childhood memories. He then went to a room with an altar where he prayed to his late grandfather. Minato then lit incense on the altar and remembered the events that led to his grandfather's death. Minato blames his grandmother Kinu for the incident. He considered that his grandmother had acted very cruelly, by not telling the facts that caused the death of his grandfather. This eventually leaves Minato's mother, Yui, with grief and trauma. And not long after that, she also died. Minato then left the altar, and decided to let go of his fatigue because he had traveled a long way. He went to the living room and rested there until he finally fell asleep.
In his sleep, Minato dreamed of various strange and terrible things. He recalled a message from his grandmother about silkworms, and he also see a picture of the events that caused the death of his mother. Shocked by the creature in his dream, Minato wake up from his sleep and confused by what he just saw in his dream. He also wondered if the dream had anything to do with his late mother. Suddenly, Minato realized that it was night. He then got up from his resting place and turned on the lights of his house as lighting. When he was about to turn on the lights, Minato heard a noise coming from the direction of the entrance of his house. Curious about the sound, Minato decided to get closer, and then he found something very surprising. In the midst of that strange situation, Minato then surprised by the sound of phone ringing that coming from inside of his house. Minato then picked up the phone and it turned out that it was Minato's father. His father explained to him that he could not return home tonight, due to an incident that happened to Minato's grandmother. And because of that, his father had to take care of things that related to the incident. After ended the conversation with his father, Minato headed towards to the kitchen in order to drink a glass of water. And when turning on the faucet to fetch the water, Minato was startled by a figure that suddenly flashed behind the kitchen window. Intrigued by that figure, Minato then went out through the back door of the house, and tried to get closer. And suddenly he was shocked and couldn't believe what he just sees. After entered the house, Minato feel very terrified. He still couldn't believe what kind of creature that he just saw. In the middle of that situation, suddenly the lights turned off. Minato then rushed to get a flashlight for lighting, and headed to the front room to call the police. When he is trying to call for help, that terrifying creature suddenly shows up right behind Minato. That creature then pulled Minato's body and then pushed him so badly until he fell. Minato tried to get up and run away from that creature and looking for a place to hide. After waited for a while, Minato came out from his hiding place. He then walked to a room that being locked by a padlock. Feeling curious for what lies inside, Minato then tried to unlock it. And when it successfully unlocked, it turned out that the terrifying creature that attacked him before is now right behind him. The creature walked slowly and tried to get closer. Feeling that he was now in danger again, Minato immediately entered the room. Fearing that the monstrous creature was trying to get in, Minato then pushed a nearby bookshelf to block the door. After feeling safe from that creature, Minato began to observe everything around him. Minato then found a letter that addressed to Minato's grandmother, Kinu. In that letter, the doctor explained that Kinu's diagnosis showed that she had a tumor. The doctor also suggested that Kinu should get medical treatment immediately. Minato then put down the letter and starting to investigate the room. Suddenly he found a letter which was written by Minato's late grandfather, Sachi. In his letter, Sachi stated that he was happy knowing that his grandson Minato had entered elementary school at that time. Sachi also explains to Yui that she has to tell her husband the secret that she has been kept. Sachi convinced Yui that even though Eiji, Minato's father, knows the truth about her, he will still accept Yui no matter what. Sachi also asks Yui to understand that Kinu has her own reasons that makes her always act so cold. Sachi realizes that Kinu has been unable to be a good mother for her, and that's the reason why Sachi takes Yui out of the village and live in the city. In addition, Sachi also expressed his gratitude to Eiji for being kind and provide a place to stay for him and Yui when they moved from village to the city. For Sachi, the moment when he stayed with Eiji and Yui is the happiest thing in his life. Sachi also stated that even without him by her side, Yui would still feel a happiness because now she has Eiji and Minato at her side. Now Sachi decides to return to Miyama's house and meet Kinu, his wife. He has left Kinu for a long time, and now he wants to spend his time for taking care of her. Lastly, Sachi said to his daughter that no matter what happened, he's still proud of her and he will always be there whenever she needs him. After reading the letter, Minato go to the back door of the room, and find an empty lot right behind his house. Minato wandered through that vacant lot and found an old building that appeared to be a storage warehouse. Minato then explored that storage warehouse, and learns many surprising facts about his mother's family. The storage warehouse is actually a residence or mansion owned by his mother's family, the Miyama family. In there he found a photo of a girl who looked a lot like her late mother. Behind the photo was written Ayano's name, and that girl is one of the members of the Miyama family. Or more precisely, Ayano is the biological sister of Kinu, Minato's grandmother. There are journals in the mansion that tell the relationship between Ayano, Kinu and Minato's grandfather Sachi. According to the journal that has been found, it is told that Ayano is a kind and a beautiful girl. She falls in love with Sachi and wants to get married. But it turns out that Ayano's younger sister Kinu was secretly in love with Sachi. And she's very jealous of her sister because she can stole the heart of a very good man like Sachi. And one day when Kinu and Ayano went to the mountain, Kinu spontaneously expressed her jealousy towards Ayano and said terrible things to her. She then left Ayano alone in the mountain, leaving her older sister with full of sadness and tears. 1 month passed after that event. It turned out that Ayano was declared missing. Miyama's entire family looked for her, and when she was found, Ayano's condition was very shabby, and she also lost the ability to speak. It is likely that for a whole month on the mountain, she screamed to looking for her younger sister, who had been cruelly left herself alone. Many days has passed since Ayano's return, but it turned out that the situation in Miyama family became worse. Based on the journal, it stated that after she returned from the mountain, Ayano's body was mysteriously mutated. Her body became thinner, her posture grew taller, and she became fond of drinking the blood of living things. And even more, she also killed her own bodyguard by sucking his blood. Lord Jubei, as the head of the Miyama family at that time, decided to lock Ayano in a dungeon, while looking for a way to restore his daughter's physical condition back to normal. Sachi was also shocked when he knows about this, but even so, it doesn't just take away his love for Ayano, and always wants to be close to his loved one. And this made marriage plan has changed. Sachi was arranged to marry Kinu, Ayano's sister. Sachi did this solely so that he could always meet Ayano, who was locked up in a dungeon. Sachi didn't care that even if Ayano's transform into a demon or yokai, he still loved that girl. Time has passed since then, and the journal also explains the chronology about how Sachi and Yui finally died. In the journal, Sachi initially told Kinu that she had found a way to restore Ayano's physical condition to become a human again. Kinu, who heard this, became angry and didn't want her sister's physical condition back to normal. In fact, when Ayano turned into a monster, Kinu actually felt happy because she had been jealous of the beauty of her sister. Kinu then made a plan to stop Sachi. She dropped her hairpin into the well, then she asked Sachi to get her hairpin. And when Sachi was about to take the hairpin, Kinu pushed him as hard as she could until he fell into the well and died. And for the cause of Yui's death, it was mentioned that after her father died, Yui decided to meet her mother and talk about various things. Especially, about the cause of her father's death, which was never told by her mother. Yui then went to visit her mother, and asks a lot of things, including the reason why her mother acts so cold to her. Without any hesitation, Kinu then takes Yui to the dungeon where Ayano is locked up. And it turns out that Yui is actually not Kinu or Sachi's biological daughter. He is a creature that born from Ayano's womb. It is explained in the journal that when Ayano returned from the mountain she was actually pregnant, but gradually her body changed, from a human to a yokai that resembled a silkworm. And this makes Ayano lose the ability to give birth like a normal human being. Yahei Shimamura, a doctor who at the time was involved in treating Ayano's condition, decided to remove the baby in Ayano's womb through a cesarean section. After the baby was successfully removed from Ayano's womb, the doctor had a fear that the baby was not actually a human. Yui was very shocked after knowing this fact and didn't know what to do. She just stood in front of the dungeon that imprisoned her real mother without saying anything. And 2 days after, Yui was found dead. She committed suicide by jumping herself into the front of a passing train. After reading the journal, Minato heads to the dungeon room where Ayano is locked up. In there, he found the last journal written by Kinu. In the journal it is mentioned that Kinu is dying due to the disease that she suffered. In her dying condition, she thought that if she died there would be no one else willing to take care of Ayano every day. Kinu then decided to end his older sister's life by putting poison into the food that already prepared for her. At the end of the journal, Kinu also expressed her regret for being cruel to many people. Kinu admits that she is the one that responsible for Sachi and Yui's death, and made many bad things happen to her older sister. Kinu also added that she truly didn't know about the thing that caused her older sister transform into a terrifying creature. Minato then put down the journal, and suddenly heard a shocking sound from behind. It turned out to be Ayano. She closed the prison door and attempted to attack Minato. Minato, who is now locked in a prison with that creature, feels that there is no way out. He then saw a rope that tied a wooden block that served to hold the boulders. Minato tried to pull the rope in order to make those boulders fell off. But it turned out that the boulders was also held in place by several ropes tied around the prison wall. Minato then trying to provoke Ayano, and making her to cut the ropes that tied around the prison. And when those ropes successfully cut off, Minato then pulled the main rope and making those boulders go down and fell onto Ayano.
天井の岩が今にも落ちそうだ。
After that, Ayano is being trapped between the boulders. And start from here, the ending cutscene will be different depending on the player's choice. If the player choose not to kill Ayano, a scene will be shown that Minato returns to Kinu's house and calls his father. By using the phone, Minato told his father he decided to quit college and stay at Kinu's house. He also explained that the house is the only place he belonged. His father couldn't accept Minato's decision, but then Minato explained again that his father would not understand this, because he doesn't inherit the yokai blood. Minato then hung up the phone, and heard a bell-like sound coming from outside of the house. He then went to the kitchen and cut the chicken alive for blood, and slowly headed to the dungeon where Ayano is. There he sees Ayano's crying and comforted her by saying that she didn't have to worry about anything. Because from now on, he would continue to be by Ayano's side.
夕食を持ってきたよ。温かいうちに食べて。また泣いているの。絹さんはもう死んでしまったんだよ。大丈夫。何の心配もいらないさ。これからは俺がばあちゃんとずっと一緒にいるんだから。
And for the second ending, if the player choose to kill Ayano, the scene will jump into 1 year later after that event. The scene shows Minato visiting Kinu's grave. Minato stated that he could not forgive for all the bad things that Kinu had done, especially the moment when she tried to poison Ayano. He also tells Kinu that at the last moment Ayano still loved Kinu. Even after Kinu had done many terrible things to her, Ayano still considers her as the younger sister that she loves very much. Minato also explained that Ayano's body disappeared when he was about to bury her. He then found a large cocoon and countless silkworms inside the dungeon. Minato then assumes that Ayano is still alive, and now searching for Kinu.
埋葬しようと戻った時にはもう綾乃さんの姿はどこにもなかった。そこにあったのは穴の開いた巨大な繭と地面を這う真っ白な無数の蚕だけだった。
Minato then bid a farewell to Kinu, and when he turned around, he sees Ayano from a distance. In his mind, Minato says to himself, even though the bloodlust inside him would torture him for his entire life, he would not care about it. And even though there is yokai blood running through his vein, he already decided to live as a human being.
たとえこの渇きに生涯苛まれることになっても、俺の中にどんな血が混じっていても、それでも俺は人として生きるよ。綾乃ばあちゃん。
For the last ending, it will be unlocked if the player completed the minigame and got the red orb item. If the player choose to hand over the item to Ayano, there will be a scene that shows Minato walked in corridor and headed to a room. When entered the room, he finds a woman sitting on the floor while turning her gaze to the window. The woman is none other than Ayano. The red orb item that given by Minato transforms her body back into a human. Minato was stunned when seeing her, because she apparently looked very much like his late mother. But suddenly, Ayano, who was calm at first, showed a strange behavior. It looks like her bloodlust is going to take over herself. Her eyes then turn into red, and not long after that, she's trying to kill Minato.
母さんにそっくりだ。
And about the story of this game, it's basically inspired by Japanese mythology about a creature called Shinchu. It is a creature which has a shape that resembles a silkworm moth and can be categorized as a holy creature. Shinchu is also sometimes equated with 4 guardian gods who give blessings to mankind. And if we look at it, it is the same as Ichinose role in the Miyama family. In the Miyama silkworm records, it is mentioned that the silk thread that produced from the Miyama silkworm is known as a very good quality, and because of its excellent quality, Miyama silk thread earned the nickname as the threads from heaven. And all of this cannot be separated from Ichinose role as a creature that can produce countless of silkworms that can give wealth to the Miyama family. Despite being a terrifying creature and can be considered as a yokai, but on the one hand, Ichinose also give a blast to the Miyama family, just like Shinchu.